Hello students and family members, and welcome to a Mr. Panza Math Homework Help video. Today in class we were focused on how we can solve function tables, and specifically I showed the students how to use algebra to solve for open-ended number sentences in function tables. Function tables are nothing more than input-output boxes, and here are the 3 steps that you can use to solve each equation for tonight's homework. Step 1, check to see if your input to output is either increasing or decreasing. If the input is increasing, follow step 2, increasing. Check multiplication and addition, because the only way to increase a number is to multiply or add. Step 2, decreasing, would be check for division and subtraction, because the only way that you can go lower on a starting number is by dividing or subtracting. And the third and final step is to apply that rule that you solved for to every single equation in the table. If nothing else works, check for multiple steps. For example, the rule may be to multiply by 2 and then add 1 to the same exact number. Let's look at tonight's homework. My first suggestion, make sure that you have a separate piece of paper, because what I told the students to do is to set up a separate third box. The reason there's a third box is because this box becomes your rule box. Yes, we have an input. Sure, we have an output, but we also need to know the rule that gets applied to every single number. And in A, if you look down, they actually give you the rule to apply. 7 plus 6, 9 plus 6, 14 plus 6. But in this case, here's where algebra comes into play. It's something plus 6 equals 21. Well, normally we can fill this in with a variable. Let's call that the letter x. And then you take the information that you know, the 6 and the 21, and you do the inverse operation, which instead of addition is subtraction, and you find out what x equals. 21 minus 6 is going to be 15, and that solves for x. It works because when I plug in 15 and I add 6 more, I get 21. If you're wondering how I came up with this open number sentence and solved for it, you may want to check out my previous video about open number sentences. It's basic algebra that can help you solve for these blank or missing pieces of an open number sentence, and there are a couple of videos just before this one that will explain all of that for you. It's certainly helpful to know open number sentences when you get to a question like B, because again, you can see that this number is increasing, but when I'm trying to solve for the rule, because in B they don't give you what the rule is, you have to know, well, they're either adding or multiplying, and you need to know what they're adding or multiplying by. And the only way to really solve for that is by common number sense, or probably what you're going to be using, basic algebra. So I'm going to try addition. If I take 2, and I add some number, am I going to get the same exact answer for each of these if I apply that rule? Well, let's try it out. 2 plus question mark equals 4. I have to take 4 and 2 and do the opposite, which is 4 minus 2, to solve for question mark, which tells me 2 should be my answer. But can I add 2 to every single one to get the same answers? It's not going to work. 2 plus 2 certainly works, but 6, applying the rule plus 2, does not get me 12. Well, that tells me that this cannot be the answer, or it cannot be my rule, which also tells me that instead of adding, I'm actually multiplying. But what am I multiplying by? Multiply question mark gets me 4. I take what I know and I do the opposite. 4 divided by 2 gets me 2. So it's still 2, but in this case, you're multiplying. And does it work? This time it does. 6 times 2 gets me 12. The rule is multiply by 2. Apply it to every single equation in your input box. Even when you have the output, you just need to fill in a variable here and solve by using 18 and 2. Do the same for the other inputs and output boxes. Even if you have an input box that is written horizontally like this one, I would suggest using your scratch piece of paper, writing it up and down so you can add the boxes like we did for letter C, B, and A. In C, again, we don't have the rule, so you have to solve for the rule, and this is where having a scratch piece of paper will work, because most students are taught just to figure out the in and out. I teach them how to use algebra to solve for the rule first, and then determine the in and out. So we know the number is decreasing from 9 to 2. I'm going to try to subtract. I know I have to subtract some number to get 2. How do I solve? I take 9 And in this case, because it's a subtraction problem with the variable in the second position, I need to subtract 2. 9 minus 2 gets me 7. If I put in 7, it works. Does it work for 12 minus 7? You bet it does, because 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5 is my answer. So I can apply minus 7 to every single number and get the correct answer. So make sure that you know how to use algebra and open number sentences to find the rule and then apply the rule during input and output boxes. I hope this video helps you solve function tables using algebra. If you have any questions, please feel free to get in touch with me. Or, again, I would suggest watching the videos on number sentences and open number sentences before you try tonight's homework. Thanks so much for stopping by. I hope this helps.